Frederick Douglass, born Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey, was born into slavery in Talbot County, Maryland. Estimated to have been born somewhere around 1818, he chose February 14th to celebrate his birthday, since he remembered his mother always calling him her, quote, little Valentine. Aww. Doug was separated from his maternal grandparents at age 6, and was eventually given to a woman named Sophia Auld, who treated him, quote, as she supposed one human being ought to treat another. At 12, Sophia started teaching him the alphabet, but her husband, Hugh Auld, stopped her, fearing that literacy would encourage him to desire freedom. And Doug was like, oh okay, bet, and secretly continued to teach himself anyway. He was later given to Edward Covey, a famed slave breaker, who whipped Doug so often that it broke him. However, at age 16, he decided to finally show Covey these hands, beating him so bad that he never touched him again. Following this encounter, Doug later noted, quote, you've seen how a man was made a slave. You shall see how a slave was made a man. And that right there, ladies and gents, is what we call in polite society, straight bars. In 1837, Douglass met and fell in love with Anna Murray, a free black woman in Baltimore about 5 years older than him. You see, Doug liked him a little mature. She encouraged him and supported his efforts by giving him a sailor's uniform as well as some of her personal savings to cover his travel costs. She was basically his getaway sugar mama. Using identification and protection papers he obtained from a free black seaman, on September 3, 1838, Douglass successfully escaped by boarding a northbound train of the Philadelphia, Wilmington, and Baltimore Railroad in Baltimore. After a long and somewhat convoluted escape, convoluted for me at least because I failed geography in high school, he reached the safe house of abolitionist David Ruggles in New York City, his entire journey to freedom taking less than a day. Once Douglass arrived, he sent for Murray to follow him to New York, and she brought supplies for them to set up a home. They married on September 15, 1838, just 11 days after Douglass had reached New York. From there, they proceeded to live happily ever after. Or did they? Frederick and Anna Murray Douglass settled in New Bedford, Massachusetts, a known abolitionist center. After meeting and staying with Nathan and Mary Johnson, they adopted Douglass as their married name, as Nathan suggested Douglass after two characters in the poem The Lady of the Lake by Walter Scott. Douglass became a licensed preacher in 1839, which helped to improve his oratorical skills. After meeting William Lloyd Garrison, a famous abolitionist and journalist, he was encouraged to become an anti-slavery lecturer and started giving eloquent speeches about his life as a slave, which probably went something like this. It sucked. In September 1841, he even beat Rosa Parks to the punch by protesting segregated transportation, refusing to sit in the segregated railroad coach aboard a train in an act that got him thrown out. In 1843, he got into even more trouble by taking part in a 6-month tour at meeting halls across the US, during which slavery supporters frequently attacked him, apparently unaware of the sheer amount of hands he had put on the last man who tried. Frederick Douglass had 5 children with his wife, Anna, who remained a loyal supporter of his public work. However, there was this one little private problem, and her name was Ottilie Assing. Assing was a German immigrant and journalist who first visited Douglass wanting to translate some of his work, and then started staying at his house for several months at a time as his, quote, intellectual and emotional companion. Douglass? Who is this woman? My intellectual and emotional companion. Uh-huh. Why don't you just die already, you old prune? Excuse you? You heard me. Oh, you're asking for it. The only thing I'm asking for is for you to leave. The only thing that's about to leave is your teeth from your mouth. Oh God, what have I done? It's safe to say that Assing did not like Anna, and I like to think that the feeling was mutual, since her husband and Assing are believed to have been lovers. And though there is no solid proof of this, come on, you really think you're gonna pull a fast one on us, Doug? You sneaky stud, you. After Anna died in 1882, Douglass married Helen Pitts, a white suffragist and abolitionist. Assing, suffering from depression and cancer, oof, and possibly realizing that she was only ever the side piece, chose sadly to end it all. But not without leaving Douglass some of her books, which pretty much sounds like 13 Reasons Why, 1800s edition. Douglass's friends, fearing that his publicity would draw the attention of his ex-owner, Hugh Auld, who might try to get his property back, encouraged him to go on a tour of Ireland. Douglass went across the pond and came to Liverpool, England on August 16, 1845. He traveled through Ireland as the Great Famine was beginning. Though amazed at the lack of racial discrimination and segregation, he was equally troubled by the sheer amount of poverty he saw, writing to William Lloyd Garrison that, quote, He who really and truly feels for the American slave cannot steel his heart to the woes of others. Douglas spent 2 years in Ireland and Great Britain, where he gave lectures in churches and chapels. He became so popular that some of his venues were, quote, crowded to suffocation. He was so good at what he did that people were willing to choke themselves out just to hear what he had to say. Doug was just that good at aura farming, so good that during the trip he became legally free thanks to British supporters led by Anna Richardson, who raised funds to buy his freedom. Everywhere this man goes, he makes sugar mamas. Take notes, guys. His supporters tried to encourage him to remain in England, but with his wife still in Massachusetts and his fellow man still in slavery in the US, he returned to America in 1847.